Okay, so we have our panelists today. Ipshita from HelloFresh is going to appear on the screen magically at some moment because due to blizzards and where Ipshita is based in New York, she's not actually here in the room today as planned, but she's very much going to be live on the sync with us. So Ipshita, just as a first test, can you hear us? Perhaps Ipshita can...
Oh, she can. What's the question, if I could hear you?
Hey, Ipshita, you're coming through. We're just boosting your volume a little bit. Would you mind, Ipshita, just introducing yourself?
Yes, yeah, hi. My name is Ipshita. I lead data science for global CX here at HelloFresh. It's a bummer I'm not able to join you all in person. I don't know if you've seen the news, but the recent snowstorms in the US, East Coast, they have paralyzed us. But I'm still very happy to be dialing into this panel. I believe Luke has some exciting conversations lined up.
Thank you, Ipshita. And we're going to get everyone to introduce themselves as they go through a little bit more about their experiences as well. But I'll ask Sahil also to introduce yourself from Graia.
Thanks, Luke. Hi, everyone. I'm Sahil. I'm the Chief Revenue Officer at Graia. We are a customer experience technology business. We've been around for 25 years, based out of Europe.
And Aji.
Hi, everyone. I'm Aji Kosh. So I'm at Chattermill, and I look after all things data science, machine learning, and machine learning operations.
Awesome. Thank you very much. So we're not just, the slides aren't just changing down here. I'm not sure if they're going up your end, Georgi, but we'll move on to the next slide in just a second. But yeah, there we go. So thank you, Ipshita, for joining us, regardless of the travel troubles that you had. But I wanted to kick off essentially this panel. Okay, we are here today at the Experience-Led Growth Summit because I think most of us, all of us, believe that experience signals are the things that really change customer behavior. And we heard from Abdul talking about that at the beginning. We heard Mikhail talking about that through the keynote. And we certainly heard a lot of amazing stories and anecdotes from Rory about the unmeasurable side of experience and how differentiating it is and how important it is. But we do all agree that experience signals appear, in fact, way before there is any changes in growth. But what's really also central to the Experience-Led Growth Summit today, because of the changes in AI that we're all aware of, and Mikhail's keynote touched on them, and you're going to hear more about it later, and it's the reason that we have the panel we have now, is agents have become, they've landed, right? So agents have landed, and they are potentially going to help us take steps forward towards action. But in our customer advisory board that we had in person before this session, we asked the question, what would you allow an agent to decide first? And it was really interesting answers that we got, both from personal life and work. But the things that came out is people aren't ready necessarily to immediately let go of control over decisions. There's a high degree of trust involved in that, and taking that step. And there's still that confidence required to have a human in the loop for that discernment factor. You know, are we doing the right thing? And some people talked about wanting to be able to do it, but needing to be able to roll it back if there were any errors. So we're right at the precipice where all the technology is loaded, dangerous and ready to go, and maybe it's trustworthy and maybe it's not. So, but action is really, within the context of experience-led growth, the real frontier inside most of your organizations, because insights are powerful, but are you able to make decisions and take actions? That's the real question. So we'll leave this quote up there, but I mentioned that's why we have the panel that we have. Ipshita gave her introduction, but actually Ipshita has a deep experience with AI applications within VOC, inside HelloFresh, but also in many brands before. So he's able to bring a real depth, I think, to this panel debate. Aji is our chief scientist at Chattermill and just focuses 100% on the application of AI within the pursuit of experience-led growth. And then having Sahil here from Graia, there's some real-world applications of agentic capabilities already live and in the field. So I'm going to go to my first question. And actually, this one's going to be to everybody, but I'm going to ask this of Sahil first. Where has AI actually changed an outcome, Sahil, in your world, and not just produced an insight?
So I think lots of examples to choose, right? But I think I'll start here to look at value and how outcome is being driven with this technology. The first thing that I think customers looking at, businesses looking at deploying this technology is to look inwards and get an understanding of how they're going to adapt to augment AI technology with the human experience that is happening today. And when you start your journey there, rather than looking at what's available out there in the market, all the technology noise, as you said, it's ready and loaded, ready to go, but that there is a lot out there in that space. So don't get caught up in that noise. Think of what you're doing right now and where you want to remove the friction points as the starting point. But when you go there, value can be found in various different places. And a great example of that actually is Ipshita's business in HelloFresh. So they're one of our customers who deploy technology in assisting the agents in a couple of different ways. Obviously, helping them identify empathy and emotional signals of the interactions that the agents are having, to helping them realize the mismatch of different applications that the agents are using on the front end to remove that agent friction and basically release time so that they can provide a better experience in the conversations they're having with the customers they're servicing at the time. The third is simplification of language. Like HelloFresh is a global organization, operates in various different countries, supports customers calling in with different language skills. Now you have English-speaking agents that are supporting those customers in multiple different languages day in, day out. So varied places of how technology like this is really helping create a significant difference in how it's being consumed and deployed.
Thank you, Sahil. That's great to kick us off. And Ipshita, if the audio is working well for you now, I'd like to come back to you. Ipshita, where has AI actually changed an outcome in your world, not just produced an insight? That's the question. I don't know if you heard it earlier.
Yes. Yeah, no, +1 to everything that was said. I can give some real examples. There are so many examples from HelloFresh that we can talk about, but just a few real quick. As you rightly say, strip away the hype. For us at HelloFresh, one thing that comes to my mind is a big demand supply gap with our Factor brand. I don't know how many people know, but Factor is the ready-to-eat brand that was launched in the US. In 2025, last year, we were growing so fast. Factor was growing so fast that we couldn't keep up with demand. And we were short shipping, is a term that Factor invented, basically failing to fill orders and then just handing out full refunds to customers to say that, hey, we're sorry. So you can imagine it was a massive hit to the bottom line and also a very bad experience for the customer. My team at that point, we had been running this voice of the customer in the US on customer care transcripts. So everything from calls, texts, web messages, very soon to be expanded to bots. But we tried to see what were customers telling us on this specific issue, like Factor and Factor short ship. And what we found was it was an aha moment. It was common sense. Customers did not want the refund as much as they just wanted dinner. They were just telling us that, hey, if you're out of broccoli, just give me green beans. If you're out of, I'm just making things up, ground turkey, give us ground chicken. Just send us the box. So the Factor product teams, they took that and they built a meal swaps hierarchy and they launched it. So we stopped the bleeding on, all those full box refunds, saved millions, of course. But more importantly, the customers were happier because they were actually getting dinner. They were not left staring at an empty fridge. And that's, in my mind, one of the highlight examples of like a fundamental change based on real-time human feedback and real-time human sentiment. But it's not just like one-off stories. This VOC engine, this helped us decide so many things like US packaging changes, how we refine campaigns like free breakfast for life, constantly refining campaigns while they're live on the go, how we even tweak app experience for customers based on very real-time feedback. I could go on forever. We probably need a whole separate session for these, but these in my mind are real cases where VOC, voice of the customer, it is not just an insight, but it is actually moving the needle on a company operational metric and on customer satisfaction.
Love it. Thank you, Ipshita. That's awesome. Thank you very much for kicking us off with that one. And Aji, can we ask you the same question? Then I'm going to come back to you actually with something else straight after.
Yeah, sure thing. So on the data science and machine learning side, like what we've noticed is something very similar to what Mikhail said in his keynote around compression. So historically, it would take data science teams ages and ages to do an experiment, weeks, months, sometimes quarters. And now with AI agents, etc., you can actually like, go through a lot of ideas very quickly. And what I sort of, the concept that we have at Chattermill is like a bunch of throwaway experiments. So you can try a lot of different things. You don't necessarily trust every single one of them. I know we're going to come back to AI and trust, but the fact that you can rapidly iterate and essentially accelerate the learning loop is like the biggest outcome for like a team like data science machine.
Thank you, Ajay. And the reason I'm coming back to you next is AI is AI, agentic is within that. And I want to just define, at least for the context of this audience, what do we actually mean by agentic and what makes a system sort of truly agentic?
Yeah, great question, because there's so much hype around agents and agentic AI, etc. Most people's use of large language models, LLMs, and AI these days is like you ask a question, goes to the model replies, and that's it, right? You maybe copy and paste that for some useful application or images, etc. Now, with agentic AI, you essentially don't just interact with it once. You actually give it a task or it has a sort of a goal. But you give that, you provide that. And when the agent has it, it has some sort of autonomy. So the agent did exactly what you'd want to do. It's sort of, you might not want to use an agent, right? But you want that agent to have some autonomy, so it can actually like maybe use some tools. So if in the sort of software context, it might be able to check some other APIs, some new data sources, some existing data sources, and then make a decision off the back of that. Send an email. And the more autonomous an agentic system is, the more sort of you remove guardrails and the more sort of agency it has to make decisions. So yeah, an agent really goes beyond this sort of prompting environment where you ask a question, you get a response, but it's an action loop, and you can give an agent a bunch of tools so it can do things in the real world.
Love that. Thank you, Aji. And Ipshita, again, given your background as well, just similar question to Aji, and I know you sort of broadly agree on the definitions, but from your perspective, what would agentic need to look like to be useful in the real world and maybe even trustworthy?
Yeah, what would it look like? Now, with full caveats, we're not there yet. We're not there. Lot of groundwork, lot of data preparedness, data readiness, data governance needs to go in. But what would it look like? I would say in a typical week, agentic would be able to do triaging well. So on Monday, for example, it's actually scanning like thousands of delivery photos to spot a trend in crushed boxes in maybe of a specific zip code. By Tuesday, it's automatically flagging that to the local distribution center or the warehouse lead. And by Wednesday, it's actually drafting the comms, the emails that need to be sent to the affected customers. So when I think of agentic, instead of a CX ops manager spending 20 to 30 hours a week, just pulling data into a G sheet, the system is actually acting as, if I may will, like a chief of staff for the experience. So it's identifying the fire, it's grabbing the hose, and it's only tapping the human on the shoulder to say, hey, I have handled 10 different things, but I need your sign off on this 11th one, just because it is a weird edge case.
Yeah.
So, that's what agentic would, once it really came to life, I feel like those are the gains it would unlock.
And it feels like you still very much wanted the assistance from the agent, not the final decision at this stage. Is that fair to say? Ipshita?
Can you repeat that?
Sorry, yeah. It sounded to me as if you were saying your vision of how it could provide positive impact inside an organization at the scale of HelloFresh right now was to bring you an insight for you to make the final decision. How comfortable do you think we have to be for you to allow the decision to be made by the agent? and the consequences of the decision to be made by the agent.
How, if I got that correctly, how comfortable do you think we have to be? We are still holding the line absolutely on the customer facing side for now. We are not there yet. So where agentic is starting to unlock some of these gains for us are in our internal low stakes workflows where, you know, productivity gain is the main goal. But we are absolutely holding the line on the customer facing side for now. So, you know, when you let an agent talk directly to a customer or move money, you're dealing with PII, you're dealing with financial risk, and like most importantly, you're dealing with trust. And we are not there at the, you know, set it and forget it stage yet with customer relationships. So I'd rather a human be the final filter there until we have truly de-risked all the governance around it.
Love that. Thank you, Ipshita. Thank you very much. And Sahil, just to bring you into this one, because you are essentially within Graia already at the stage in the sense where you're taking action. So from your perspective, what has to be in place before agentic systems can actually act inside organizations, and maybe share anything about what actions already happen?
Sure. So I think one of the things we all should probably look at is with the shift from generative AI getting more into agentic, you're going from analyzing, fixing your data problems into moving into more delegation and then execution, right? That's what autonomous agents are supposed to do. But tie that back to your experience as a human in the business. It's like hiring a new employee, teaching them, telling them what to do, giving them the goals of what they want to achieve, and then monitoring their progress, giving them feedback in a closed loop. You got to think of deploying this technology in the same way. You bring it in, you start at a journey point where you're looking at areas where there is less friction, to Ipshita's point, focusing on productivity gains. It's within your risk barometer of what's acceptable, what's not acceptable, thinking of where you want to have human validation when you're trying to solve things, but maintain that closed loop feedback. This technology is not like SaaS technology has been for the last 25 years, where I deploy a project over 6 months and I'm going to get an output because it says so on the tin. It's what you make of it. And if your feedback is not rolling back in, you're not iterating that output, you're not cleansing your data, you're not going to see the improvements that you're looking at today.
So we're getting quite close to the end of our session. So what I'm going to do is ask Aji just to talk a little bit about the agentic hype, rather what is still hype, what's not, where do you think the tech is going to fall short first?
Cool, thanks. So in terms of the hype, I think there's a lot of hype and sort of desire by especially a lot of people in tech to sort of automate everything humans do. And I think that's one of the things that I personally find quite annoying, because it's quite far from where this technology is right now, especially in very subjective domains like ours, where you're analyzing customer experiences that are by its very nature very subjective. Very hard to sort of say what is a real objective truth. Sure, a lot of these agents and LMs are really, really good at acing maths tests or physics tests that have a very concrete answer, right? You can be right or wrong in sort of fairly simple tests. But in our domain, you need a lot of business context, you need a lot of human context and awareness of the situation. So the same answer might be right one day, but wrong another day, depending on context changing, right? So that's why I think the hype is around, oh, you don't need any humans in the loop. So yeah, I would say that anything to do with like zero humans, or for example, not requiring any guardrails because it's been trained on so much data, is one of the big sort of issues I see currently.
Thanks, Aji. And this is a fairly short session just to keep things on time for the rest of the schedule. But I think the theme that we picked up throughout the day, as I say, from the small group of customers that we got to talk to deeply about this subject, where would they allow agents to act or decide, became very apparent that there's a big trust curve for all of us to sort of mount before we will feel that those decisions can be taken by agents. But there's an absolute desire and an opportunity to really embed agentic capabilities in our workflows as soon as possible. And as Rory said, not just for efficiency gains, but also for ways to create more bandwidth for more human-based decisions about real experience changes, adapt to, that really drive real behaviors that really have a meaningful consequence in the end for growth, but being able to focus our time on the perspective. Thank you, Ipshita, for joining us from New York and and avoiding the blizzard successfully. For those people that want to stay in touch with Ipshita, we'll ask about making Q&A available or questions to follow. Thank you also to Sahil from Graia. Graia are around as well in the foyer if you want to talk to them about deployed agentic capabilities within their field. And Aji also, as chief scientist, is also around to talk to you about the fundamentals of the applications and embedding of this type of technology. But we really want to keep the schedule moving because we have some great customers coming up to talk as well.